Who was Count COZIO? Over the course of his long life, Count COZIO, 1755 to 1840, was an instrument collector, a dealer, a patron, an archivist. He is the bridge between the great Italian makers of the 17th and 18th centuries and our own era. In part because of the detailed information he recorded in his COZIO papers and his memoirs, modern collectors, musicians, and dealers can look at a Stradivari violin with an understanding and appreciation of the history, craftsmanship, and traditions that created it. Count Ignazio Alessandro COZIO di Salabue was an Italian nobleman who was known as the first great connoisseur and collector of violins. The Count's father, Carlo COZIO, owned an Amati violin, which may have piqued COZIO's fascination with violin making. In 1771, COZIO attended the military academy in Turin, where he became acquainted with Giovanni Battista Guadagnini, the famous violin maker. In 1774, COZIO and Guadagnini entered into a contractual agreement for the production of new violins. Over the next 3 years, Guadagnini built over 50 instruments for COZIO, which represent a salient portion of his output. Later, COZIO formed partnerships with the Mantegazza brothers, Domenico and Pietro Giovanni. COZIO revered Stradivari. His passion for the Cremonese master's instruments inspired him to seek them out from sources all over Italy and beyond, and even, in an extraordinary act for the time, to buy the contents of Stradivari's workshop from his son, Paolo. Today those contents, patterns, sketches, notes, labels, an array of tools, are in the museum in Cremona. COZIO also formed a business partnership with Luigi Tarisio, and managed to obtain numerous violins by Stradivari and Guadagnini. He's the first person to actually sit down and write things down from observing instruments, and to be reasonably methodical about it, says British violin maker John Dilworth. But COZIO was also a man with a mission. Dilworth adds, he became a violin fan at an early age and realized that the knowledge was disappearing, that instruments were disappearing from Italy, and that there wasn't any group of makers left. He went on a mission to try to save the craft in Italy. On the other hand, he was also looking to make money out of it. In COZIO's final years, with a fine collection of instruments still in his possession, he opened negotiations to sell it all to Luigi Tarisio. From Tarisio, some of the instruments found their way to the French maker and dealer J.B. Violin in Paris, and from there, to dealers and players all over the world. Important instruments that once formed part of the collection. Violins by Antonio Stradivari. Dragonetti, 1706. Messiah, 1716. Sachelli, Michelangelo, 1718. Jules Fork, 1723. Paganini, 1724. Salabue, 1727. Muntz, 1736. Bell Skinner, 1736. Violins by Carlo Bergonzi. Scudi, 1733. Chrysler, 1740. A violin by Francesco Stradivari. 1742 violin, Salabue. Violins by Giovanni Battista Guadagnini. 1773 viola, COZIO. 1774 viola, Wanamaker. 1774 violin, Salabue, Berta. 1776 violin, Lachmann Schwechter. 1777 cello, Simpson. 1782 violin, Salabu, Chapman. TARISIO founder and director Jason Price and John Dilworth weigh in on the value of COZIO's COZIO and his memoirs, translated into English by Brandon Fraser. Price finds COZIO's observations and notes to be extremely useful because it shows the first known points of many of the important strads, guarneries, and amatis. It's also very useful to see price comparisons. How much was an amati versus a Stradivari? It's interesting to see the growth of prices over his lifetime. Dilworth remarks, "The legacy is to me that he laid the foundation of the appreciation of the instrument and expertise as a pursuit. People had their opinions about things, but he put it down in writing and tried to analyze it. The fact that you can take an individual strad right back to when it belonged to him, and he sometimes tells you where he bought that from Signora so-and-so who bought it from Stradivari in 1716, that's beautiful."